Our school locked us down for a bus that never existed drive-through. The worst sound I ever heard wasn't the sirens. It was the PA speaker crackling on at 9:14 in the morning, third period, when nobody expects an announcement. We had these garbage speakers that made everything sound like a fast food drive-through. So when Principal Reyes came on, half of us didn't even look up. Then we heard his voice shake. All students remain in your classrooms. This is not a drill. My pencil just stopped. Mr. Dalton walked over and locked the door. This is a guy who once taught an entire lesson with a broken arm. His hands were shaking so bad he dropped the key. That's when the room went dead quiet. Then the speaker again. Teachers, check your email now. Do not read it aloud. Mr. Dalton opened his laptop, and I watched the color leave his face. He said, everyone, away from the windows. 9:14, that number stuck in my head because that's when it started, and I kept checking the clock like it could undo something. Phones had no signal, total dead zone. Outside, sirens, more and more of them, and then boots in the hallway, running. Emma next to me whispered, is this a shooter? Nobody answered. Somehow not knowing was worse. Then Vice Principal Okafor came on, voice cracking. Any student who rode bus 12 this morning, report to the gym, bring only your backpack. Marcus, 2 seats over, slowly raised his hand. That's mine, he said. That's my bus. Mr. Dalton looked at him the way you look at someone you're about to lose. They opened the door, and the hallway was full of officers in hazmat suits, full masks. One pointed at Marcus. That him? Bus 12? And they walked him out. He kept turning around to look at us. I'll never forget his face. 6 hours we sat there. No bathroom, no food, just rumors crawling through the room. Chemical leak, bomb. Someone said the driver found a package under a seat, leaking something, and they only caught it because a kid's white sneakers turned yellow on the floor. Mr. Dalton wouldn't confirm anything, but I caught him wiping his eyes when he thought we weren't watching. When they finally let us out, my mom grabbed me in the parking lot like I'd come back from the dead. On the news, they said radiation, poisoning, the whole thing. Marcus and 4 other kids from bus 12 got taken to the hospital and never came back to school. Their lockers just sat there. Teachers changed the subject if you asked. At graduation, they put 5 empty chairs in the front row with white roses. Reyes did a moment of silence and moved on. Nobody explained. I stopped asking. I spent 2 years thinking I survived something. I told the story at parties. I flinched at every PA speaker for years. Then last month, my mom was cleaning out the garage and handed me a box of my old school stuff. Report cards, spirit shirts, and a printed bus roster from that year, the one they mailed home every August. I flipped through it looking for my route, just curious. There is no bus 12 on the list. Routes go 1 through 11, then jump to 14. I thought it was a typo, so I texted 3 people from that day. Marcus's cousin still lives 2 streets over. She wrote back. Marcus was homeschooled. He was never at that school. I sat there for an hour. Then I pulled up the old news articles. Everyone says the same thing. A surprise lockdown drill, run to test staff, no package, no chemical, no hospital. 5 actors, hired from a community theater, to play the affected students, so teachers would take it seriously. The 5 empty chairs at graduation weren't for kids who died. They were props. The roses were part of the drill, and the school just never took the set down. I called Mr. Dalton, the only number I still had. I asked him why he was crying that day, if he knew it was fake. He was quiet a long time. Then he said, I wasn't crying because I believed it. I was crying because you all did, and I wasn't allowed to tell you. A pause. But that's not what I'd worry about. I asked him what he meant. He said, go look at the roster again. Count the names in your 3rd period class that day. Then count the desks in the photo. I hung up. I found the photo. I counted twice. There's 1 more of us than there's supposed to be. I need to explain how I counted, because I need you to believe I didn't get this wrong. The photo is our 3rd period history class, not the day of the lockdown. You can't photograph a lockdown, but the October class photo, the one for the yearbook. Same room, same desks. I knew there were 22 of us because Dalton used to joke he had a full deck plus 2 jokers, and there were 22 desks, all filled. I counted the names on the roster. 22. I counted the faces in the photo. 23. I told myself I was tired. It was midnight. I'd just found out 5 kids I mourned were actors. My hands weren't steady, so I zoomed in and went face by face, matching everyone to a name. Emma, Tyler, Zoe, me, 3rd from the left in the back, Marcus, right there in the photo, which already broke his cousin's story wide open. But hold that thought. 22 faces to 22 names. And then there was the 23rd. Back row, far right, half behind Tyler's shoulder. A kid I did not recognize. Not, I forgot his name. I mean, I have no memory of this person ever existing. Pale, dark hair, staring directly into the lens when everyone else is looking slightly off. He's the only one looking straight at the camera, and he's not smiling. Nobody's grinning in a yearbook photo, sure, but everyone at least performs it. This kid is just staring. I did the thing you're not supposed to do at midnight. I posted the photo in the big class group chat, the one with 140 people that nobody's touched in years. One line. Does anyone know the kid in the back right? By 6 a.m., there were 19 replies, and not one of them named him. Every reply was the same shape. Wait, who is that? I've never seen that guy. Is that Shopped? Zoe, who I've known since we were 9, who did attendance for Dalton twice a week, wrote, "That's not a real person. There were 22 of us. I would know." So it wasn't just me, a whole room of people who lived it, and none of us knew this kid. And he's printed in the yearbook. I dug my actual physical yearbook out of the same box, found the class page, and there he is again. Same photo, same stare. Nobody caught it in years because nobody counts faces in their own class photo. You look for yourself, you look for your friends, you close the book. I called Dalton back. It rang 4 times, voicemail. His voicemail is still the one from when I was a student. "You've reached Dan Dalton. If this is about the makeup exam, the answer is Thursday." I called again. 3rd time he picked up on the first ring and didn't say hello. He said, "You counted." "Who is he?" I said. Long breath. Then he said something I've replayed 100 times since. "I've been waiting 11 years for one of you to ask me that, and I'm about to lose my pension for answering it." Then he told me to meet him. Not on the phone. There's a diner off the old highway, the one by the closed-down bowling alley, and he said be there at 3 and come alone and don't post anything else. I went. He was already in the corner booth when I got there, and he looked 20 years older than he should. Coffee he wasn't drinking. He waited until the waitress left, then slid a manila folder across the table. "I photographed the original attendance sheets before they collected them," he said. "Every teacher had to hand them in that afternoon. Nobody knew I made copies." I opened the folder. Attendance sheets, 3rd period, the week of the lockdown. Monday, 22 names. Tuesday, 22. Wednesday, the day of the drill, 22 names. Everyone accounted for. Little check marks down the side in his handwriting. "I don't understand," I said. "Then who's the extra kid in the photo?" He tapped the sheet. The photo was taken in October, 2 weeks before the drill. He slid another page over. October attendance, 23 names. I read down the list. All the names I knew, and near the bottom, one I didn't. Same as the face. A name I'd never heard in my life, in a class I sat in every single day for a year. "He was there in October," Dalton said quietly. "He was gone by November. Off every list, out of every record. And here's the part that cost me sleep for 11 years. He leaned in. I never noticed he left. None of us did. There was no empty desk, no phone call from a parent, no transfer paperwork. One day, he was in my class, and the next, it was like the room had always had 22 kids. I only know he existed because I kept these. I asked the obvious thing. "So he transferred. Kids transfer. Say his name," Dalton said. I looked at the page. I opened my mouth, and I could not do it. My eyes were on the letters, and my brain slid right off them, the way you can't read a sign in a dream. I tried 3 times. I could say every other name on that list. His just would not come out. Dalton nodded slowly, like he'd watched this exact thing happen before. "It does that," he said. "I've shown that sheet to 4 people. Nobody can read that name out loud. Not one. Now, I know how this sounds. I know." I sat in that booth telling myself there was a boring explanation, a printing glitch, a mind playing tricks. But then Dalton said the thing that made the whole diner tilt sideways. "The drill," he said. "The lockdown. Bus 12. The 5 actors. You always assumed the school did it to test staff response, right? That's the story the news ran. That's the story I told myself." He wrapped both hands around the cold coffee. "I found the district paperwork last year when I retired. There was no drill authorized that day. No memo, no sign-off. Reyes didn't order it. Okafor didn't order it. The company that supposedly hired the actors doesn't exist and never did." "Then who made the announcements?" I said. I heard Reyes's voice. I heard Okafor. "So did I," Dalton said. "So did everyone." And when I asked Reyes about it 2 years later, at his retirement party, he went white. He told me he never touched the PA that day. He was in a meeting off-site the entire morning. He heard his own voice giving a lockdown order for a school he wasn't in, and he never told a soul because who would believe him? I said the only thing left to say. "What does that have to do with the kid in the photo?" Dalton reached into his jacket and put one more thing on the table. A single sheet, photocopied, curling at the edge. The Bus 12 roster. The bus that doesn't exist, isn't on any route list, that the news said was invented for the drill. 5 names on it. The 5 actors. 5 kids who got walked out in hazmat gear and never came back. I read them, and I stopped breathing. because I knew 4 of those names, not from that day, from the October attendance sheet. 4 of the actors on the fake bus were real kids who'd been in classes at Oak Ridge in October and then vanished off the records by November, same as the boy, erased the same way. And the 5th name on the Bus 12 roster, the 5th kid they walked out and nobody ever saw again, was the name from my class photo. The one I couldn't say out loud. The extra face in the back row. He didn't transfer, Dalton said. He got taken, in front of all of you. And the drill was the cover, run by something that could put Reyes's voice on a speaker he was nowhere near. They didn't fake a disaster to hide nothing. They faked a disaster to walk 5 real kids out the front door with the whole school watching. And then they reached into everyone's memory and pulled the kids out by the roots. It almost worked. It would have worked, except one teacher kept a photocopy, and one student, 11 years later, learned how to count. The diner was dead quiet. My coffee had gone cold too. I looked down at the 2 rosters side by side, the real one and the fake one, the same 5 names bleeding across both, and the whole floor of my life just dropped out. Why me? I finally said. Why keep it 11 years and hand it to me? Dalton looked at me for a long, long time, and then he said the thing I will hear in my sleep for the rest of my life. He said, because you're in the October photo too, back row, but you're not on the November sheet. He turned the last page toward me with one finger. You've never been on any sheet after October. I've been teaching an empty desk for 11 years, and today is the first day since the drill that anyone's actually seen you. I looked down at my own hands on the table. I could see the wood grain right through them.